So, a warm welcome to our guests from all over the world who are joining us here at the Responsible AI Summit. I'm exceptionally thrilled to introduce our next speaker, Majid, who is joining us from Saudi Arabia. When we are on the ground in the classroom, we're faced with unique challenges when it comes to ethics and some of the things that happens in the ecology of the classroom setting when you're working with the students. So I will bring a warm welcome to Majid, who will talk to us about bite-size ethics. And Majid, if you would start by just introducing yourself, and then I will be quiet and very enthusiastically listening to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you so much, Claire. And I apologize if I was holding the program because I got the timing wrong. I'm in a completely different time zone. I'm in Saudi Arabia at the moment, and I am a lecturer on pharmacology in College of Medicine in Sulaiman Al Raja University, which is a private university in Saudi Arabia. And I have been in academia since 2008. So, and I have seen this whole transition of from moving from traditional teaching and now in the era of AI and ChatGPT. So there are lots of things to think about from the teacher point of view, what students are doing, keeping an eye on them. So this is a very interesting stage. So I want you to start with the imagine a world where every student receives personalized learning, tailored assessment, and instant feedback, and they graduate with exceptional grades. Again, I would say it's an ideal scenario where we want every student to have personalized learning. And what I mean by personalized learning is the learning which is suitable to the needs of the patient, needs to the of the student. Sorry, because I teach in medicine, so I sometimes mix up with between students and patients. So personalized learning is that learning content which is tailored to the learning needs of the student. Tailored assessment means that whether the student is a high performing student or an average performing student, we tailored assessment according to that, and the student receives an instant feedback after submitting that assessment, and they graduate with exceptional grades because everything was tailored to their needs and to their capabilities. But this is an ideal scenario. What are the ethical implications of achieving this vision in the real world? And can AI help with that? Or should AI help with that? These are all the questions which lots of them are still, I would say, gray areas to think about, because a lot of people say that whether we should talk about use of AI in classrooms or even in education, because the industry is still evolving a lot. The dust hasn't settled down. Should we talk about it? So my take on that is that we should help this dust settle down. Even when the industry is evolving, we need to evolve with the industry as well. Otherwise, we know that this industry of AI is evolving very, very quickly, and the ethical and regulations related to that are lagging behind. There's so many new AI tools and AI approaches coming out every single day, and our regulations are not updated according to that, are not speeding up with that. Most of the institutions I know, they don't even have any AI regulations or frameworks. So what first we need to look at the step back and then look at what is AI promising for education. So AI promises personalized learning, and we can have adaptive learning technologies, which, for example, give the students content tailored to their needs. Even for example, I'll give you just a quick example. So if I'm a student and I log in and I get a diagnostic test, like the diagnostic test means I get some MCQs which test my knowledge, and then the AI platform assesses where I am in the curriculum of the course, and then it starts giving me the content from that course, and so on. And then it's efficient automated grading and feedback, because if we get AI to grade the students' assessments, which is again whole debate, we can spend all day on that. If we get AI's help to grade the students and give the feedback, it's very, very efficient and very quick, I would say, because in practice, we educators, we do not have a lot of time to spend on the assessment and then giving detailed feedback to every single student. And then excess educational resources are for all. So because it's technology can be accessed from anywhere, so we assume that everybody can access it from anywhere. Although the issue of equity is always there, because does everybody has an access to this technology or not? Does use of AI help in improving the learning outcomes? There is still a lot of, again, I would say, a lot of gray area. We have got very mixed studies. I was all involved in one of the studies. I'm not sure if we should talk about it. It's under review in one of the journals, where we encouraged students to use the AI tools, and then we compared their performance with the students who were not using the AI tools, and we did not find any significant difference in the two groups. However, there are studies out there which show a significant improvement in the learning outcomes with AI as well. So what are the challenges and concerns? Bias and fairness is the first thing. AI algorithms reflecting societal biases. I was just reading one of the papers the other day, where it was about whatever scenario or whatever case studies the AI throws back at you. They are mainly manly centered. They are not very feminist. So there is for example, if a case study, AI generates a case study for you, or creates an multiple choice question for you, it would be based on male patients mainly, and not the female patients. So that those kind of biases are there. There is privacy concern, data protection, and student consent. One of the main things to think about is that if I give students assessment to an AI tool for the feedback, then that the student's assessment becomes part of that AI tool training. So do I have permission or consent of the students to use their assessment for that AI tool? Because their assessment, which is their property, their intellectual property, that is going to become the part of the AI tool training. So do we have the student consent from that? Actually, I will highlight one of the studies which I'm involved in with some students. So I was doing this. I was giving students content to the AI tool, but I had to design a special consent form for the students, and explaining them that their work is going to be part of AI training tool. Do I have their consent of that? And then I had to explain that what's the implication of that, and what does that mean actually, because most of the students doesn't even know what that means. Then accountability, who is responsible for AI decisions? If the educators don't have a lot of time, and they get the generated feedback and just give it to the students without any reviewing, and if there are inaccuracies in those feedbacks, who are responsible for them? Okay, so I think I've mentioned the real world examples while I was explaining that. So before I start talking about the importance of and development of the frameworks for the responsible AI use in the higher education institutions, I would mention something related to personalized learning. The other day, I was in a panel talking about personalized learning, and we were talking about providing the tailored content and the extra content to the weaker students, to bring them closer to the high level students. And then one of the issues raised was that if we do that, the high performing students would think that why the low performing students are getting so much extra content and extra attention, and why I'm not getting that, although I pay the same amount of fee in the university. So that's one of the issues that we need to have educate the students about this as well, that if we are giving a tailored learning to the weaker students, this is to close the gap, the grade gaps between the two groups of the students. So, but again, lots of issues to think about. So if we have a kind of a framework which puts together and takes into account of all these things which I have talked about, for the responsible and ethical use of AI, then that helps because it provides kind of a guidance. So the core principles of this framework should be transparency. So I think the students should be told that how the AI tools are going to be used, for the assessment and the generation of the feedback. I just finished giving a feedback to one of our cohorts, in which I gave them my feedback and an AI generated feedback, and I made it very clear to the students that the second feedback is an AI generated feedback. So please, when you review that, you have to be very careful because there can be some inaccuracies in that. It's fair with all the students, and whatever the AI approach we are taking, and accountability. So if we are using any AI tools in education, we should be accountable for them and make sure or show that whether they are actually benefiting the students or their learning outcomes, and we're not just using the technology for the sake of technology. Application, how educators and students can apply these principles. And I think I've been involved in with some other institutions, helping them to develop the AI policies. And what we emphasize is that whatever policy we come up with for ethical use of AI in education is should be made in collaboration with the educators on the ground, and they understand the applicability of it. Very briefly, I was involved in one of the AI policies for the educational institution, which was a long policy of 90 pages, and I said to them that nobody's going to read that. So we need to either make it summarized a version of that, or make a visual infographic which highlights the main points. Strategies for maintaining the integrity and equity. Developing strategies are promoting AI literacy among students and faculty. I think that's very, very important. I am conducting the sessions with my students nowadays about how to use AI, because when I look at it, so if I know that all of my students are using ChatGPT, for example, so what should I do? Shall I just leave them alone and do whatever they are doing, or strictly prohibit them from using ChatGPT, or I teach them what's the ethical use of ChatGPT so that they can use the ChatGPT for efficiently, for the learning outcomes. So I think, so for the faculty development related to the ethical use of AI, and the student education related to the ethical use of AI is also I think very, very mandatory in the educational institutions. The while we are educating the students and the faculty about the ethical use of AI, we need to be accountable. We need to be take into consideration the bias and the mitigation techniques, how we can mitigate the risk of that bias. Ensuring diverse sets for AI training. So we make sure, when we develop any AI tool, a particular AI tool for our purpose, or specifically for our institution, it's trained on enough data, because we know that that more diverse the data is, or the better the data is used for the AI training, the better your AI tool is going to behave. Some real world applications. I was just looking for some of the scenarios, some of the latest developments, and I came across I think it was University of Sydney was in the news but just very recently, 2-3 days ago, that they came up with a new assessment policy, in which they divide assessments broadly into two categories. One category of assessment is which is done in person. The students do it on the campus without using any AI tools. The other category of assessment is where they are encouraged to use AI tools for their assessment, and it's a takeaway assessment that they can do it from anywhere. So what should be our strategy? So we should be aware of the AI ethics, and we should be aware of the equity, it's an integrity in assessments. So whenever we talk about integration of AI in assessments, we also make sure that we are maintaining the standards of our assessment. It should not be, again, I would emphasize that it should not be just using the technology for the sake of using it. We need to think about whether is it enhancing the learning outcomes, or is it enhancing the practice, and then we can integrate it in the assessment process. We should also develop, in addition to developing the frameworks for the whole institution, we also need to be thinking about making student guidelines, and which should, and how they can legitimately use AI tools for the study aid reasonably. Ethical awareness, the students are also have the right to be aware of this, understanding the implications of AI usage, and of course the integrity maintenance. Again, one of the things which I said before, that I'll give you an example, that if I know all of my students are using AI tools for the course, shall I tell them what's the ethical use and the proper use of that, or shall I just leave them alone to figure that out? So again, my take on that is my pedagogical responsibility, at my institution, that I educate the students, and not about ethical use of the AI and the proper use of the AI tools, and not just leave them alone. So institutional policies are very, very important. I think there are still in the development. We all know that all big universities have got the institutional policies for the AI use in education, what is allowed and what's not allowed in assessments, and also for the exams, especially the exams which are done online. AI integration in education, we need to develop the robust ethical guidelines to make sure that the integrity and equity is not compromised. So I think revisiting that ideal world, which I was talking about in the beginning, with ethical integration of the AI, we can move closer to the ideal world. But of course, the ideal world still looks far away from achieving. But with integration of AI, I would say ethical integration of AI, we can move to that ideal world. I was just thinking, if I remove the word ethical from this statement, that is going to be a chaos, right? So if we, meaning that if we try to integrate AI into the education without thinking about the implications and ethical considerations of it, it might move to the ideal world, close to the ideal world, but it would not be the way we want it. So I would encourage all the participants, especially those who are educators in the audience, to sit back and think about whether your institutions have the policies of to use AI ethically or not, and if they have, are they actually working? Do you understand them? Are they implied or not? Okay, thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Let me try that again. Thank you so much, Majid. I realized that you couldn't hear me there. I'm just looking to see if any questions have come in. In the meantime, I have a question for you. I wonder, when you are on the ground, when you're in the classroom in front of a student, what are some of the direct challenges that you have had? For instance, if a student asks you, can I use generative AI, or maybe they did use it, but they didn't know how much or how little, how do you balance that conversation right when it's on the ground in the classroom?
I think with the generation, like I will take a step back for that. That how did we balance by letting the students using the technology in first place? So some educators were very much against using this, allowing the students to use their laptops or iPads or phones in the class. but again, it depends on the educator. So I generally allow the students to use any technology or any device they're using. Sometimes they're using AI tools, and this thing was, there are some students in the class who are very shy to ask anything. So sometimes what I do is that I make some platforms on which the students can post their questions, and they have choice to post anonymous questions as well. So that helps a lot, the students who are shy to speak up. Also, sometimes the students, if I'm saying something and the student quickly use ChatGPT for the further explanation, and then they tell me you are saying this, and there the counter arguments of that as well. So I think that is the time when I say to the students again that please do not forget that this is AI. It can make mistakes as well, and it's a big disclaimer on ChatGPT as well that it can make mistakes. So I think even if it's on the ground or outside the classroom, educating the students that AI can make mistakes as well, and do not completely rely on AI tools. That's very, very important. But one thing I would highlight again, because these I was just talking to some students about research this morning, and I told them that we learned before the era of ChatGPT, and now this generation, their learning process is completely different because it's so much affected by AI tools, that and we need to educate the students. Just like when your kids are growing up and they start going out and see the world, you tell them what's right and what's wrong. I think as educators, it's our responsibility to tell the students that use AI tools because they are out there, but be careful the pros and cons of that. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. It's fantastic answer. So just to finish us off, we only have about a minute left, but I am eager to hear. You talked about biases and these limitations, that the AI is only as good as the data we have. And then you mentioned ChatGPT, which of course is trained primarily or to a great extent on North American and European data. I wonder, are you experiencing that there is a less of a quality experience for students outside of these regions who are using these models? And is Saudi Arabia working on its own solutions in terms of a large language model that is trained on Saudi Arabian data, for example? So we only have about a minute, so you'll have to answer quickly, but I'm dying to know.
But I think that this is a very good question. Yes, I have experience using ChatGPT, particularly that when I ask it to create some scenarios or give me some ideas for the scenarios, it gives me the ideas which are not. Sometimes it gives me the ideas which are not culturally acceptable here. So definitely that's the issue of data it's trained on. And the second part of the question, yes, at the moment we don't have any way of training the AI tool on the culturally acceptable data. We don't have that at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's such a key point, because when we're thinking AI, we really need to think global. It's a human technology, and we need to make sure that it's representative of the way that we would use technology in our different global communities. So thank you for pointing that out. That, I think, is a conversation we need to return to. It could be very interesting, but we are out of time. So Majid, thank you ever so much for joining us. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. And the conversation will continue in the chat, in the networking area. But thank you for taking the time, and we will take a short break, and we'll return in just about 10 minutes with our next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.